What is going on, guys? It is Trifecta J here, back with episode 5 of my Royals franchise. Today we're going to be going through one of the most important things in this franchise, and that is the MLB Draft. Kansas City is 28 and 26 at this point, as we've gone through 2 months, just finishing up April in the last episode. And to start off this episode, we're going to have a trade. Paulo Orlando, who is a nice fourth outfielder, we're going to be making a move to trade him to the St. Louis Cardinals, that's one of the things that they're lacking, picking up an 18-year-old center fielder. I'm not sure that's where he'll be staying throughout his entire career. He doesn't really have the speed you want in center field, but he is a very nice addition for our farm system that definitely has got to get better. You can see the Cardinals playing very well so far this year. And now the first player year draft, but before we go through that, we're going to go through a breakdown of our Major League roster and get a look at some of our prospects. You can see a couple of nice B potential pitchers, Kyle Zimmer, Josh Stomount, and Miguel Almonte. Chris Young has really fallen off this year at 37. But the most of our starting pitchers, at least towards the top of the roster, are all older. At relief, you do have some nice people to build around in Matt Strahm and Brian Flynn. Flynn still has not given a run up this year. At catcher, you have the future in Salvador Perez. At first base, Eric Hosmer in the final year of his deal. We have questions about him moving forward. Raul Mondesi, he is a guy that has not really panned out quite yet, but he still is young. Mike Moustakas, 28 years old. He is also in the final year of his contract. 25-year-old Hunter Dozier, one of the better prospects in baseball. Took him a while to get to the majors and didn't stay for very long, but he is a nice piece moving forward and could be a future everyday player for us. And left field, you have Alex Gordon, who has a couple of years left on his deal. Lorenzo Cain in center in his final year. A couple of C potential guys, three 18-year-olds actually now. And then in right field, you have Jorge Soler, Jorge Bonifacio, both nice B potential players. So now getting into the Major League Draft, you have Chris Anaya, I believe, and Tyrell Craven go 1 and 2. And we will look at some of the guys that we're looking at. Cyrus Lowry, a 21-year-old pitcher, only 5'10" out of Virginia. He should be ready in a couple of years, has some high potential, and would start off as a pretty high overall. Ronnie Vigil, he's another high potential guy. He's 6'4", lefty from California. He has some nice breaking control with his pitches, only 19 years old. Phil Hayes, a 6', 18-year-old. Then you have Tyler Henderson, a 6', 20-year-old. Some relief pitchers, not a lot of high potential guys there, except for a closer. You do have Derek Gunter, who could be a nice future closer. Omar Ortega, very similar, both 20 years old. And Derek Gunter, a very high potential type of guy. And he could definitely be the guy we look at with this first pick after. Some of the really good starting pitchers I was looking at did go off the board in the first 13 picks of this draft. At third base, you have some nice guys. 3 18-year-olds at shortstop, including Luis Sanchez and Rico Bautista. Both have high potentials and could be nice players, maybe in that second or third round. I definitely wanted to go try and get a high impact pitcher in this first pick. Geraldo Perez, he's a far away, but he's 18, nice speed, could be a nice top of the order type of guy, and also is a good fielder. And so with this pick, we would end up deciding between Cyrus Lowry, the 20-year-old starting pitcher, and Derek Gunter. And Gunter would be the pick, hoping that some of those other starting pitchers would last till our next pick in the second round. And a couple of them did, as now we are in the second round looking at Cyrus Lowry, the 21-year-old, only 5'10", but it's not the biggest deal to me. He has some nice break, could be a good potential guy for not walking a lot of people and controlling his pitches, and he would be our choice. Hopefully he can get to the majors pretty quickly at already 21 years old. Then with our next pick, I wanted to go with a younger starting pitcher. As you can see, Evan Mosquera, and I believe the other guy was Drew Trout. Yeah, Drew Trout, a 6'2", 18-year-old from California. Nice break and does not allow a lot of homers. And Evan Mosquera would end up being our pick, 19 years old. He's a starting pitcher. Then with our fourth round pick, looking at starting pitcher once again, looking for some high potential type of guys once more. Really looking for high impact arms who are young and hopefully can get to the majors at some point pretty quickly. JJ Gentry, one of those guys, along with Andy Lloyd, both 2019 ETA for the majors. I like JJ Gentry because he was 18 years old, but Andy Lloyd I thought was the better pitcher overall, and taking a couple years older isn't that big of a deal if he will be in the majors quicker. Then in our next pick, we are pretty much out of guys that we know a lot about. You can see the players that we already drafted. going through just all the position players, there was Nick Worth. We don't really know anything about him. 18 years old, out of the Dominican Republic. He appears to be a guy with great contact ratings, a good arm, and he would be our pick. We don't know a lot about him. He is definitely a roll the dice kind of pick, and hopefully he can turn out to be a nice player. With our next pick in the 6th round, we were looking at some of the relievers who were still available, along with starting pitchers. And with this pick, we didn't really know a lot about any of the people left, and we decided to go with Everett Norris. My thought process was, if I'm going to take a guess, I want to take a guess on a guy who is young and has some potential to grow. And then with our, I believe, final pick, we're looking at slim pickings, and we would end up going with Pablo Dominguez, a reliever. And so our first round pick, Derek Gunter, 94 velocity, 93 break. He throws a 4-seam changeup and slider, so a nice mix for a closer, and he appears to have some very nice potential at 94. Cyrus Lowry, he does not walk a lot of guys. His velocity was better than I was expecting, and hopefully he can get in the majors pretty quick, and he'll definitely be put on the fast track. Evan Mosquera, 19-year-old lefty. He does not give up a lot of homers, 6'3", and he's definitely a nice potential pitcher, 81 potential. Cyrus Lowry with an 89 potential, so nearly an A potential. And then you have Andy Lloyd, a 20-year-old out of California, some nice velocity, doesn't walk a lot of guys, doesn't give a lot of home runs. One of the better guys I thought out of this draft was Nick Worth, 18 years old. He has a strong arm and contact like we were hoping for, likes to steal bases and is clutch when it comes to batting, 75 potential though, so doesn't really have a lot of room to grow from where he is right now. Next up is Everett Norris, 89 velocity. That was great to see. He throws a 4-seam, slider, splitter, and changeup. And then the final pick was Pablo Dominguez. Does not really have a lot of potential to grow, but could be a nice guy who can move quickly through the minors and get into our major league bullpen. Only problem with him is he does walk a lot of batters. Next up, looking at how some of the players in our minor league systems are performing. Bubba Starling, a former first-round pick at 18 years old, 6 years in the minors. He's finally maybe starting to put it together. He's playing very well in AAA. Now a look at the top prospects in baseball, and we finally have someone who is on this list. We did not have anyone to start the year, as Hunter Dozier is the 42nd best prospect in baseball, but at 25 years old, doesn't have a ton of potential to grow. A look at our trading block, basically everyone mainly in their final year of the contract, a few others who are not, are on this list. And now I look at the injuries. Ian Kennedy, Pedro Fernandez, and Christian Benford all out for a good period of time. 3 to 4 weeks left for Ian Kennedy. A look at our lineup. Our lineup is actually performing very well. Our starting pitching and relief pitching outside of Brian Flynn and Kelvin Herrera are another story. Eric Hosmer, Lorenzo Cain, and Salvador Perez playing very, very well. A look at the AL Central now. 2 games over 500 and 6 games back of the Cleveland Indians. One final look at our draft picks, the 7 guys who will be joining our minor league system in this next year. A few guys that I'm very excited about. Everyone except for really the last pick, who I feel like actually could be a pretty nice contributor for us. I was very excited with how this draft class did turn out though, but I hope you did enjoy today's episode. If you did, please leave a like down below. Thank you for watching this episode. Let me know down below in the comments, which of the draft picks did you like the best? Which ones do you think, or are you the most excited to see you play? I will see you for episode 6, in which we'll go through the month of June for the Kansas City Royals, 'cause I'm out.